And history remembers the facts, but what about the phantoms that refuse to be forgotten? Welcome back to The Common Historian, where history meets the supernatural. I'm Jeremy, and each week we explore the haunting intersections between our past and the paranormal. Tonight, I am joined by Milt Carnes, historian, author, and co founder of CASPR Paranormal, broadcasting live from the surgeon's office at Farnsworth House Inn in Gettysburg. So grab your favorite beverage, dim the lights, and prepare for a journey into the world where history refuses to stay buried. Welcome, Milt.
Wow, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You know, that your location has always fascinated me and was very excited when, we were able to make this happen.
Yes, this house
Oh,
draws you in.
oh yes. I've never been, but it's on my bucket list to go is to
Well,
Gettysburg.
let us know. We'll be here.
So, kind of diving in, you have an impressive background. Your doctorate in theology, American history, emergency medicine, forensics. How did this combination lead you to paranormal investigation?
Well, my father was a World War II veteran, D-Day survivor, and there were 9 of us children. And from the time we were newborn, he brought us all here to Gettysburg. This was his peaceful place to be. And so we all grew up here, playing here all summer long, every weekend. And I was probably about 16, and I had my first little paranormal experience over by the old trolley line over by Devil's Den. And we actually saw a full-bodied apparition kind of just disappeared then. Ever since then, I've been kind of hooked with the paranormal. And then I just joined in with the ghost tours, kind of went along with the history. And here at
Yeah,
the Farnsworth House, we do both.
so you're sitting in the surgeon's office at the Farnsworth House Inn right now.
Yes.
For those unfamiliar with this location, what is this place and why does it, what makes it so important in the house?
Well, we do a surgical reenactment here in the surgeon's room, and we have a whole little medical museum set up around us with displays. We do what's called the Blood, Guts, and Glory tour, which is a presentation where we bring in a patient. We have actual tools that were used by Civil War surgeons. We do an amputation, different removal of bullets and shrapnel from our patient. We talk about the diseases. We talk about the things that people don't talk about in the history or the ghost hunting, to be
Yeah.
honest. And it's kind of a hidden little thing that people really don't know that it's here.
Oh, yeah. I think, I had heard of the Farnsworth House Inn, but I didn't realize until I started looking a little bit more into it, the importance of that. So, that kind of leads into my next question. The Farnsworth House played multiple roles during the Battle of Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through what happened there in those 3 days in July 1863?
Mr. Sweeney owned the house at the time with his wife and their children. They also housed a lodger and his wife and 3 children here in the house. Of course, on July 1st, as the fighting raged just outside of town, the families were worried. As the fighting started to come into town, as the Union Army was retreating and being chased by the Confederates, the families retreated into the cellars, and the members of the Louisiana Tigers ended up occupying the house on the attic of the house and using it as a sharpshooter's nest, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Now, during that time, the first floor of the house later in the afternoon of July 1st was also started to be used as a field hospital. The living room and the parlor of the house were used as a field hospital, and that actually was used as a field hospital until Camp Letterman opened on July 22nd.
It was a field hospital for a while then.
Yes.
Uh, So, yeah, and I can see why, doing these reenactments tie it into the history. One of the persistent stories that I was reading about is claims that the Confederate sharpshooters from the house accidentally killed Jenny Wade. I know it's quite controversial.
Is
Historians dispute it. What
yes.
what's your opinion or what's your take on it?
My honest opinion is that it could have come from here. The thing is, we honestly will never know where it came from. Some historians have actually had ballistics tests, with lasers set up and they said, oh, it came from this house. I know the Farnsworth property here had a ballistics test done and they said, oh, there's so much percent probability that it came from this window. So we really don't know. It's believed by some, but for me, it came from somewhere in this area. Now, whether it was from our house or from the Weinbrenner house across the street or the McCreary house across the street or any of the other houses, the whole town was filled with Confederate sharpshooters. So it could have honestly come from anywhere.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of fascinating that it's
It is very hotly debated. Now, of course, being with the Farnsworth House, I would definitely say that I believe the shot did come from here. But to be completely honest, yeah, there's no way we'll ever know,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Unless we get time travel as a thing at
Exactly.
some point.
Exactly. Which I think would be absolutely terrifying with
It
what these
would be.
folks went through.
Yeah, it would be. So the house still bears over 100 bullet holes in its
Yes.
brick walls. What does the level of damage tell you about the intensity of the combat around this location?
Well, the Sweeney house was in an area that would have been akin to like a no man's land in World War One.
Yeah,
We were in between lines, literally. The Confederate line was behind us, although the sharpshooters were in the houses all around us. Down the street, which would have been the Wagon Hotel, and the what's now the Jenny Wade house, which they call the Jenny Wade house, was the McClellan house at the time, is where the Union sharpshooters were. So there was a lot of fire directed towards the house, the Sweeney house, the McCreary house. There's a lot of damage to these houses. You can read the diaries of the townsfolk, and they tell you about how the building shook when the cannons fired and how you could hear every ping of the bullets off of the sides of the houses. So the damage that was inflicted in this area here was absolutely horrible.
yeah,
And you literally just see the side of the house that faced that portion, and you can see 150 bullet holes still there.
yeah. So it was not a place you would want to be at that point.
No, no. And they were lucky. They were lucky because that side of the house only has one window, and it's the attic window that they were firing from as the sharpshooters. So they were a little protected,
Yeah,
in the field hospital because of that.
yeah. You're currently, you know, the field hospital after the battle.
Yes.
With your emergency medical background, could you describe what would happen in this room during those desperate days following Gettysburg?
Yes. What we do is, of course, we introduce and give a little information about the town and the way the field surgeons would have worked here. We have two patients in the room with us all the time. The first one was Stephen, who was very seriously injured, and I was actually operating on him when they brought in Lieutenant Mitchell Anderson here, who was a member of the 7th Tennessee Infantry. Stephen was pretty much dead, and because he was a lieutenant, Stephen was taken off of my operating table because I had to try and save the lieutenant. Quickly assessed the lieutenant, and we see that he has severe wounds to his face. He has a very severe wound to his arm. A portion of his arm was taken off by a cannonball. He's got some chest wounds. So we actually remove some shrapnel from his chest, sew his chest up. We try and take care of the wounds in his face, pull out the bullets, pack it. Then we get to work with trying to amputate his arm a little farther from where it already had been
Yeah,
amputated by the cannonball. And we use the exact tools that were used at the time. We use the same procedures. We try and give it as much of a historical background as we can,
Yeah.
explaining that we would have taken a pretty large scalpel like this one and cut around the arm. We would have tried to, since he was a lieutenant, and we wouldn't have wanted it to be an ugly wound for him. We would have cut a flap and try and made it look pretty. We know we're going to get infected because we don't know
Yeah.
anything about that type of stuff yet. So we know it's going to get infected, but we explain about that versus a very quick amputation. His life was completely in danger. And then we work on until we can hopefully get him off of the table alive. Now he
Yeah.
does bleed and he does shoot blood across the room, and it's rather interesting and kind of a little bit of comedy in with it to keep
Yeah.
it light. But most people tend to really love it.
Yeah. And in reality, they probably they didn't have much anesthesia or anything like that back then. So,
Well, they did have chloroform. They had chloroform and ether. Ether would have had to have been used outside because it's explosive and we were operating by candlelight.
yeah.
But we could have used chloroform inside. It depended on the supply, how close your supply wagons were. And of course, here at Gettysburg, with 51,000 people being injured, killed, or declared missing in the 3 days, there wasn't a whole lot of time and there was a shortage of supplies.
Yeah.
So you maybe a little bit of whiskey, maybe a little bit of laudanum, a bullet to bite on. But we did have anesthesia, just it depended on the amount of supplies that you had with you.
Oh, yeah, true. And during the intense, especially the intense fighting part of it, you probably wouldn't have much at all.
Right.
So kind of going, we've kind of went through the kind of historical part,
Mhm.
and with the common historian, we also visit the supernatural side of
Yes.
things. So what paranormal activity has been documented in the room you're in compared to other rooms in the inn?
The room that we're in right now does have some activity in it. It is not one of the most active rooms on the property. A lot around here is things moving around. You'll come in and like we have shelves set up with the little medical curiosities and displays. And you'll come in and this displays will be moved around after the door has been locked all night. So no one's been in here. A lot of creepy feelings in here at times. People don't like to be alone in this room.
No.
It doesn't really bother me too much. There are other portions of the house that I prefer not to be alone in much more than this room. But that's basically it in here. There's not a whole lot in this room.
Not a whole lot in that room.
And I think I've been ghost hunting for 32 years now. And I think that whatever might be in here feels pretty comfortable with us being in here. I
Yeah,
don't
so
know
it's
if it
not.
sees us as a surgeon or a doctor and we're trying to help, and it really doesn't bother us too much in here.
Yeah.
This was the surgeon's room. It was the seance room.
Oh.
So that was before my time. So I don't know what it was like back then.
Yeah, it might have been a lot more active back then.
It could have been. Yes.
USA Today just voted the Farnsworth House the fourth most haunted hotel in America.
Yes.
What makes the location stand out among hundreds of haunted hotels nationwide?
Well, I can tell you the house, almost every major ghost hunting show, podcast, you name them, they've been here at the house. They've done ghost investigations in the house. Every psychic medium you could imagine from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from all over the world have been here. And one of our very famous ones years ago said that she sensed that there are 16 distinct spirits within the house.
Oh,
Well, within the house and on the property,
yeah.
because it is a large property. It's more than just the house. We have several outbuildings and large property here. Most of what we have here tends to be pretty friendly. A lot of our spirits like to touch in a good way. They
Yeah.
might pull pranks and pull on pant legs or play with long hair. We have a little boy spirit here named Jeremy who absolutely loves to sing Christmas carols all year long. He's been heard by plain ears in the house. This house draws you in. But once you're here and you start to experience what actually does go on in the house, you get drawn into it. Most of our storytellers and guides have been here 10, 20, 25 years or more because you just fall in love with this place.
Oh,
And
I can imagine.
I think the guests do too, because there are a lot of repeat guests. Once
Yeah.
they stay once or twice, they're usually hooked and they're coming back again. We do have some that get terrified and end up running away.
Oh,
That's the honest truth. We have it happen once in a while.
yeah. I imagine most haunted locations have that, or
Yes.
especially hotels. They have
Yes.
that where, you know, someone says, "Oh, I'm going to stay there." Maybe they don't believe, and
Right.
then, something happens.
Yes. So they see a beautiful bed and breakfast room and they are booking. And then they get here and start to see the ghost tour stuff and all the things. And sometimes it's something that really happens in the room, and sometimes it's something that's in their head. And it just kind of
Yeah,
chases, they chase themselves out.
yeah. So Casper Paranormal has investigated the entire property. Can you
Yes.
walk us through the different areas in the inn? Talk us through them and where the paranormal activity is most concentrated?
Yes. On our normal investigations, we normally investigate the attic, which is also called the garret of the house. That is where the sharpshooter's nest was. We know that the sharpshooters that were killed up there during the battle were, because it's a very small area where that window is, they actually had to be pulled out of there by their boots,
Oh,
uh, by whoever was in the attic with them so that they could be replaced. And then their body was laid in the back corner of the attic by the chimney until July 4th, when the Confederate Army had retreated and Mr. Sweeney ended up coming back up into the house and found the bodies laying up in the attic. So up there, we get a lot of activity from spirits that over the spirit box say they are sharpshooters. We have one named Walter that likes to show up with the spirit box down into the cellar. We call it the haunted cellar. It is set up like a Victorian mourning parlor to show people how there were no funeral directors at the time before the Civil War. It's set up like it would have been for a relative's funeral in your front parlor. We have the casket set up down there with the body and everything, just the way it would have been. And of course, down there, we also have the famous mirror from the Travel Channel show Kindred Spirits. They did a whole episode on our famous haunted mirror down there. Sometimes with the pictures in the mirror, we get photographs of Walter, who is the sharpshooter, and he's a pretty chubby guy, but big full red beard and gray kepi hat. But down there, we also have a spirit of a cat that shows up. There's photographs
dramatic.
of him. We have a photograph of Jeremy sitting cross legged on the floor down there. And Mary, who is one of our residents' spirits in the house, actually likes to sit behind and watch the storytellers tell their tales in the cellar. But that's a place down there that a lot of tugging on pant legs and a lot of. But we also have a door down there that was sealed by Elaine Warren.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
she spent time in the house after her husband had died, and she absolutely adored the house, but she did not like something that was in the cellar. And it's more towards the older section of the cellar. The house was built in two portions, the main house in 1810, and then the front portion that you see was built in 1833. The older portion of the cellar, she felt that there was something. She said it wasn't evil, but she felt that it was not friendly, not likable
Right.
at all. And it kind of freaked her out a little bit. So she actually hand painted a sacred sigil on the door to seal whatever spirit is back there, back there. So people get to see that on the tours as well. That's kind of a hidden little secret of the house.
I know you kind of mentioned the house has been featured on A&E, Discovery, History Channel, Travel Channel. After decades of investigation, what keeps the researchers back here? I know you said that they get, the guests going to get sucked in. Is that what's happening with the teams as well?
I think you do kind of get sucked into it as a team, but also we do have the spirits that we see all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, but our resident spirits that we're used to dealing with. Um, but we also have things that just show up sometimes that are not something that we're used to. Last Thursday evening, we had a guest after one of our tours that was taking photographs of our famous haunted mirror, and two absolutely amazing photographs of a face showed up in the bottom of the mirror. And that's something that we had never seen before. We've seen faces in the mirror, and we've seen them in all different spots of the mirror. We've seen faces in this spot of the mirror, but this face was not something we had seen before. And it was actually, it creeped us out a little bit because the first image was okay, but the second still image was a little bit freaky.
No.
Whatever was in there did not look very nice. Looked like a friendly one. Did not look friendly. But I think that's part of what draws a lot of the teams back to the house is that you really never know what you're going to have happen. You may
Yeah.
have a good night where you can sit on the floor and you can play with the train with Jeremy. He has a little toy train down in the cellar that he'll play with, or you can play with the little light up cat balls and roll them across the floor. And when the lights go off, after a few seconds, the ball starts to roll back to you and the lights go back on.
No.
You may have a night where Clarence, who is trapped in the famous mirror, he was a murderer. He murdered a licensed battlefield guide from Gettysburg back in 1918, and he was executed in 1921 in the electric chair. He is the one who was trapped in the mirror. You might have a night where, like for 26 minutes one night, I sat and argued with him over the spirit box, with him cursing me out like you would not believe.
Oh.
He's actually he threatened over the spirit box to stab me.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a friendly man, very friendly.
Very friendly. He sounds very friendly.
But of course, I don't feel any fear in the house. I don't. Almost everything here is completely harmless and friendly.
Well, that's good. That is always a good thing. So I know you said that you have right here. Oh, so the inn served soldiers from both the Union and Confederate armies, and it sounds like you can distinguish between spirits from each side.
Usually, with the questions we ask, we can, over the spirit box sessions, or even depending on whatever you're using. If you're using the spirit box, the dowsing rods, the crystal, whatever, we can usually distinguish pretty quickly. We'll ask questions like, was President Lincoln your president? And sometimes you get some pretty nasty answers, depending on which spirit you're talking to at the time. A lot of the spirits in the house that are from Civil War soldiers are Confederate.
They're mostly Confederate.
The
Have any of them changed allegiances since their
I
death?
I don't think so. I'm dressed right now as a Union Civil War surgeon, and I know sometimes down in the cellar, the spirits don't like to talk to me too much if I'm wearing blue. If I change into a Confederate Civil War surgeon, then a lot of times I'll get more answers.
That sounds like they're still pretty aligned to the South.
Yes, very much so.
What's the most compelling piece of evidence you've personally captured at the Farnsworth House Inn?
Me personally, I would have to say we were doing a investigation on one of our mini paranormal nights one night, and while we were talking downstairs, I was actually explaining the sacred sigil that Lorraine Morin had painted on the door. And as we were talking, now that door is not kept locked, but there is a locked door behind it. Now, of course, all of the electrical cabinets and everything are back in there. So if you have to do any maintenance work, you have to go back in that room anyway. But it is kept locked by a double door. And this was a time when no one else is in the house. Absolutely no one, there's no other way to get into the cellar except for that door. You would have had to have walked past me to get into that portion of the cellar. And I'm explaining the door, and all of a sudden the door started to shake like someone was trying to force the door open.
Oh,
And for me, that's the most compelling part right there. Most compelling thing that's happened to me in the house.
oh, yeah.
That was, why don't we go back up to the attic for a little while? We'll
Yeah,
give it a few minutes to calm down here.
yeah. I think that would take the cake.
Yes.
In your years of investigating here, what's happened to you personally that you can't explain? Well, in addition to the shaking
We
door.
all know how the one that is always the hardest for me to explain is with the spirit box. We use an SB7 and an SB11 spirit box during our investigations. My name is not common. Milt is
Yeah.
not a common name anymore, but I continually get that. And they continually say my name over the spirit box. I know the spirit box draws in radio background sounds, but Milt is also something that isn't said on the radio very much.
No, not at all, really.
So for me, that is one thing that I just can't explain how it happens.
They have to really look for that name.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But last night on our midnight, we do a midnight till 2 a.m. investigation Friday and Saturday nights. And last night it said my name probably 6 or 7 times.
Wow. That
It,
that
it,
is quite unexplainable.
it creeps me out a little bit.
They know you.
They do know me. They do.
Are their accounts align with what your formal investigations have documented?
Some do, some don't. Each room has a journal in it that the guests can write what they've experienced in the room. And a lot does correspond with the investigations that we've done in the house and the investigations that a lot of the professional TV ghost hunters and the podcast ghost hunters, Sam and Colby and all them who have
Yeah.
done investigations in the house. A lot of it does align with things that have happened on the investigations. Now, I know a lot of people tend to say that there's demons in the house, there's some demonic forces. I've never felt that in the house. Like, I know there's some that aren't the friendliest in the house, but I've never felt anything horrible.
Yeah. You wouldn't
But
call them demons.
I've never felt any demons here in the house. But that doesn't mean they're not here, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there is things that correspond, like the in the Sarah Black room, which is considered the most active room in the house. The bed gets kicked at night. A lot of times, the report hearing a baby cry from the closet of the room, and if you read back through, Sarah Black did experience the death of a child in this room, but so did the Sweeneys. The Sweeney family actually lost 2 children. One died at 10 days old, one died at 12 days old. And that corresponds because that's things that we get on our investigations as well,
Yeah.
where
It
we'll,
goes back to,
we'll on EVPs, we'll actually hear babies crying,
yeah.
in that room. So it does correspond a lot.
Yeah. Draws back to the actual documented history.
Yes.
The Farnsworth House operated as a historical site, paranormal hotspot, and functioning bed and breakfast. How does the current owners balance all three of them?
Well, it's interesting. The Schultz family that owns it now, Loring and his wife Jean, are absolutely amazing people. They're in their 90s now. They bought the house in 1972. They started doing originally it was just a bed and breakfast and a tavern and fine dining. In the mid 1980s, they started doing ghost stories. And that's when they built the Victorian viewing parlor down in the cellar. And we've been doing the ghost thing ever since.
Yeah.
It just kind of has taken off. Mr. Schultz balances it very well, actually. He likes that each portion of the house's businesses kind of piggyback off of each other. We all support each other. We all try and help each other out. Because, like you said, the bed and breakfast, the fine dining, the beer garden, the tavern, the ghost tours, there's a military antiques mall portion of it. There's the bookstore. And we all just kind of work together. We're like a huge family here, and it's great. And I think that's part of what draws us all in too, is we all feel like we're part of the family here. The family balances it so well. They do such a great job with it.
That's great. Curiosity of mine. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, he is 100% for everything, every part of it, you know. As long as his guests are happy, he is over the moon happy.
so your theological doctorate, how does that inform how you interpret what you encounter in the Farnsworth?
It's interesting because obviously that is a part of theology that is not really in line with many of the teachings, but I'm also grounded in science. And a lot of people say that the ghost hunting is not science either, but I feel that it really is. We try to follow as much scientific method as we can.
Yeah,
And 200 years ago, 300 years ago, you know, we considered thunder and lightning to be witchcraft.
yeah,
So we can't really say what is and what isn't real at this point. I think it is, from the theological standpoint, I think it is very wrong of us to say that whatever spirits may be around or whatever energy we may be experiencing isn't real, because we don't know what
yeah,
is originally intended, and we don't know what happens after we pass on. If you go with the science, energy never ends, it just turns into another form. So for me, that's how I feel. That's what happens with our life energy when we pass, is that it turns into another form. And
yes,
that's what we're experiencing sometimes with what happens here in the house.
yeah.
But theologically, it doesn't really jive with that. But, you know, I'm a person who likes to think for myself.
Yeah. For someone planning to visit the Farnsworth house, what should they know that won't be in your typical tourist materials?
Make sure that you don't come, and I hate to say it this way, um, or if you do come, come very early on anytime near the anniversary of July 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, anytime near Halloween or Remembrance Day. Get here early or book extremely early. If you want a good room where you want to investigate activity, like the Sarah Black room, you're going to want to book probably 3 to 6 months in advance, because that room is booked almost every night and
Oh,
it
I
is
can
very hard to get. Come see the Blood, Guts, and Glory tour. It's something that it's completely different. We don't talk about ghosts. We talk about history. We talk about surgery. Come just experience the house. You know, come see the fine dining. Go eat in Sweeney's Tavern. Go sit for a while in the beer garden. Join us on one of our tours. We do so many tours during the one season, and we actually do tours all year long, because, like, now we're starting to move the tours into the house, and we do a combination where we do about an hour walking town and talking, and then a half hour in the house. Whereas now we'll start to move the whole thing into the house, and we'll take you into the attic and the cellar and
yeah,
some of the most haunted portions of the house. My thing is explore the entire house,
yeah.
experience all of it.
Oh, it sounds like it'd be super fun.
It is. It is.
You've written about the Farnsworth house and your investigations. Tell us about your work and where people can find it.
Well, right now it's we're still not published yet. I have poetry published, but that's a totally different thing.
After
My first book right now is actually the spirits of the Farnsworth house from the spirit's point of view. So it's the tales as they would have been told by the spirits themselves. So there's a little bit of what we've gotten over the spirit boxes, response wise, a little bit of the history that we know. And of course, there's some embellishment in with it. And hopefully that should be coming out within the next few months.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And then kind of wrapping up, if listeners want to explore the Farnsworth House and take your tours or connect with CASPR Paranormal, where should they go?
Well, of course, they can find the Farnsworth House at farnsworthhouseinn.com or on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. You can also find Casper Paranormal on Facebook and myself, Sleepy Hollow Milt, on TikTok. Farnsworthhouseinn.com is the best spot to find any of it, though.
Yeah. And I'll make sure I put all the different links in the description below.
We
So if
appreciate
anyone,
that.
well, Milt, thank you for taking us inside the Farnsworth house tonight and sharing both the history and the hauntings of this incredible location. Thoroughly enjoyed it. For everyone listening, you can visit the Farnsworth house in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and experience the history firsthand. Like I said, everything will be in the description below. If you enjoyed tonight's journey through one of America's most haunted locations, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you never miss an episode. And share this with your fellow history buffs and paranormal enthusiasts. They'll thank you for it. Until next time, we'll dive into another haunting history adventure. Remember, history never truly dies, it just finds new ways to haunt us. Until next week, keep digging into the darkness.